Steve Earle, welcome to Australian Musician.
How are you?
I'm good, man. You're heading back to Australia in April. It's been a while. Do you have any specific memories of your time in Australia previously?
God, I've got a lot of them. I've been coming for a while now. I guess the first time we came was when the Hardway came out in 1990, and that was a tour with the band. And I've come back solo as much as I've come with the band. I brought a band a few times, but it's expensive, so I always kept up the skill set of doing solo shows. So I've done several Australian tours solo. This was going to be solo. I didn't really plan it that way, but that's how it's going to be. And it's Lucinda and I are on the same dates for the four sets of shows, and so I'll sit in with her band some probably. And we've known each other a long time, literally since we were teenagers. So it's that last tour was right across the country with Paul Kelly, who I've known as long as I've been coming to Australia, since before I ever went to Australia. I met Paul in Nashville. His first trip over to the States in like 86 or 87. Took him to Tootsie's Orchid Lounge for the first time. And I like Australia. I like, it's an English-speaking territory of the world. It's far away, but it's like what I do is about language, and there's only so many people that in the world in certain places that speak the language that I write in. So I try to make those places.
Yeah. So do you catch up with Lucinda Williams much? Do you get to play with her?
Yeah, we work together quite a bit. We were just on a cruise together, the Outlaw Country West Cruise. We're kind of on different hours. She's more nocturnal than I am at this point in my life because I got a kid, but we had dinner a couple nights, and that's we usually do on those cruises. The last cruise, like last winter, Emmy was on it too. So Lucinda and Emmy and I had dinner like pretty much every night on that cruise.
Yeah, great. So how do you approach your set list for a tour like this? What factors do you take into consideration?
I've got 22 albums, 19 of which are all my own material. So I kind of I try to remember there's certain songs I gotta play pretty much every time, and I usually never disappoint people with that. I play Copperhead Road, and I don't, that doesn't bother me at all to have to do that to have that responsibility. And I play Guitar Town pretty much every night. And I play the Galway Girl pretty much every night. Those are three that you can kind of count on. And there's others. I'm lucky I have more than one song that people want to hear. So there's probably 5 or 6 things that I play most shows, but those 3 you'll hear pretty much every show. And so that's the beginning of it. I don't use a set list for solo shows. I know what I'm going to play first, and maybe the first 2 or 3 things when I go out there. And then after that, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah. You've been writing music for Tender Mercies, the Broadway adaptation of the 1983 film. Where are you at with that work?
We did our first table read of the first act today, and it was very, very, very exciting. We were all really thrilled with it. So what I moved to New York to do was to do music for theater, but this is the first real musical. I did songs for a couple of plays that music was an important part of, but they weren't musicals; they were plays. And theater takes a long time. Though both of those pieces I did before took 4 years each. And this has taken 2 years so far, and we're not finished yet. So,
yeah. So, what do you get out of working in theater or movies that you don't get from a solo or band project? Is it just the variety of work that you enjoy?
I just like the idea of I love theater as an art form, and I don't. It's a challenge. It's also one of the last places there's any mailbox money for songwriters, and I started a theater company in Nashville. I wrote a straight play that had no music in it whatsoever, and thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I got here and produced my play here, and I finally figured out it's stupid for me not to write a musical. I'm a pretty damn good songwriter. And the American, the book musical is an American invention, just like the blues and bluegrass and rock and roll. It's something we invented. And so, and I love it. I kind of grew up with it, and I love it.
Yeah. So what things do you need to consider when writing for a musical that you wouldn't for a Steve Earle record?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What'd you say?
What things do you need to consider when you're writing for theatre that you wouldn't have to?
I try not to apply any rules like that. I try for the songs to be freestanding for the most part. I try to avoid the operatic stuff that doesn't make any sense when you take it out of the. There may be a few things, but I try to avoid that. It's one of my least favorite things about modern musicals is it's kind of become a lot of that. So I try to make them songs that have a reason to exist on their own.
Yeah, yeah. Jerry Jeff is your current album, the third in a trilogy of dedications. The others being Guy Clarke and Townes Van Zandt, all very different songwriters. In your mind, is there something they all have in common?
Yeah, they were, they all knew each other, and they all met in Texas, crossed paths there. I knew about Jerry Jeff before he lived in Texas, but he didn't live anywhere for several years, and Texas was one of his frequent stops. And it's just they were all came out of coffee houses. They were all storytellers. One thing I'll say about Jerry Jeff compared to Guy and Townes, he was by far the better entertainer of the three. He connected to audiences better than almost anybody I'd ever seen up until maybe I saw Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. You've got a YouTube series called Guitar Town, in which you talk about your guitars. Coming out to Australia or any tour, what's the selection criteria for the guitars that you pick for a tour?
For the tour or for? I'm sorry.
When you go on tour, there's so many guitars you can choose from.
Oh, well, yeah, the main thing is there's no vintage guitars like the ones you see in Guitar Town on the road, because they get broken and they're gone. And I think it's irresponsible to tour with them because they get broken and they're not making them anymore. And I'm trying to preserve mine as a way to take care of John Henry when I'm gone, because he has autism, and also, for posterity, because the guys that made them were really good at what they do. So what I take on the road is as little as I can get away with. And I take 2 electric guitars, 2 acoustic guitars, 2 mandolins. They're mostly I use these James Trussard electrics that are made of steel and indestructible. And they're set up with a humbucking pickup in the front and a regular Telecaster pickup in the back, and and a Bigsby, and I can make that guitar make any electric guitar sound I can think of. My acoustics are I finally come around to, I think, the perfect Rode acoustic guitar. They're Martins. They're M size, which is one size bigger than a triple O. They're 16-inch guitars. But the new ones that I had the custom shop build me are all mahogany, and I don't know why I didn't think about this years ago. And I'm a rosewood and spruce top guy, but when you put a pickup in, you can't tell the fucking difference. So an all mahogany guitar is more stable, stays in tune better. It's harder for roadies and airlines to break. So that's this new guitar. The custom shop made me 3. It was the first guitars they built after the lockdown ended, and that's what I've been touring with the last 2 summers. And they're Martin. I guess technically they're M15s or M17s. I'm not sure which. They're black. They're just they're pretty plain. They do have the split diamond position markers, but other than that, they're pretty unfancy. And George Gruen and I are talking about doing an artist model based on these guitars that'll be available through his shop in Nashville.
Yeah, if you ever build,
of course, the mandolins, I do carry. I carry a mandolin Steve Gilchrist built. Everywhere in the world that I go, because it's hard to come up with a cheap mandolin. So, but I can carry the mandolin on with me. So I've got a couple of Steve Gilchrist mandolins, one of his octaves and one of his guitars, and built in Warrnambool and Victoria. So. Yeah.
Have you ever built a guitar yourself?
No. I watched Guy Clarke do it, and I've watched Steve Gilchrist do it a lot, but I'm not that guy. I'm not that great with my hands when it comes to that kind of stuff. I had construction jobs and, framing houses, doing this, painting, and I got fired from pretty much every fucking one of them. So.
Steve, when you turn on the TV or radio or pick up a newspaper and you get your daily news, how does that affect you in a creative sense? Are you inclined to reach for a pen and express your feelings, or does it do the opposite? Does it just make you angry? And
Well, I just get news in the morning. I've got a 12-year-old, so I wake up in the morning and I put on a pot of coffee and I turn on channel 1, which is the cable channel here that has all the information, and tells me what temperature it is and all that stuff. But there's the best local political coverages on that channel too. So that's the first news I get. I'm not as news addicted as I was a few years ago. I watch it and I read it. I've got 5 newspapers on my phone, maybe. I don't read them cover to cover, but I watch for the alerts and I track down the stuff that interests me. I look for new stuff to read, but I also reread fucking Harry Potter books from time to time. It's just one of those, that's what I do instead of take note now, so.
Yeah. Well, what about bucket list projects? Have you got things in the back of your mind you want to get to one day?
Well, once I finish this musical, there's another couple of musicals that I've got ideas for that I'll probably move on to. I want to make another bluegrass record one of these days.
Yeah. And what's the grand plan for Steve Earle?
Broadway.
Yeah.
Broadway. That's why I moved here, and that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah. Did you go and see other shows?
Did I see what?
You go and see other shows to see how they're put together?
Oh yeah, lots of shows. Yeah. Because I'm making one, so I go see everyone I have time to see. I don't see everything because I tour all summer and I've got a kid, so I can only go out so many nights a week. So, but I've seen quite a few things, and I just saw The Music Man, which is Hugh Jackman, and he's great in it. I've seen. I didn't go to musicals for a long time. I went to straight plays, but I finally remembered this is an American art form and started wanting to write one. So I go to more musicals than I do plays now.
Yeah. Well, Steve, we look forward to seeing you down here next year, and it's been great to chat.
Cool. Thanks. See you in a few weeks.
See you, man.
Bye.